The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
Oh, that's great news. People love when they hear that third name. And the first two names are all right, I guess. But that third name, Jennifer Landa, get people really happy about that. So we're all happy here to talk about breaking news from a long time ago and breaking news from Sunday night. Oh, it was going to be a simple little news day. We are going to have some fun little stories. We're also going to talk about, it's Thanksgiving week, and whether you celebrate the holiday or not, we're going to play around with that spirit of thankfulness and Thanksgiving and talk about what we're thankful for in Star Wars in 2022. Fun little conversation there, but we are definitely going to get to the changing of the Bobs here in a second. The Sunday night shocker of Bob Iger stepping in back to the role. Well, we'll talk about it. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about today's podcast, and it's brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. A little bit later, we'll have our ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us and that we think we should read. That Star Wars Life Adventures, a lot to get to. By checking both your Hive postings, it seems like you've been busy. So we'll talk about that. Yes, we're all made the transition to, well, I don't say transition to Hive. We've added Hive to our many social media apps. ForceCenter is on there, but we're going to spruce that up. So we'll be over there as well. But before we get into all that, let's catch up with Life. Jen, Star Wars Life, where did it find you?
This week, and the theme seems to be the Ewoks. I'll get into it a little bit later as well. But my kids and I, they wanted to watch the Ewoks cartoon, which fantastic. It is now on Disney Plus, because before we used to have to go to YouTube. And, the quality was not great. And anyway, so it was fantastic to be able to watch it on Disney Plus. And my 7-year-old did not want to stop watching. My 3-year-old started getting scared. And so then it was like, I was so torn as a mom. I'm like, yes, she wants to keep watching. She's into it. And Alea does not. She's terrified by these monsters and things. So, but they love Latara. They love Nisa. And we also have the Ewok Galactic Pal, which has a pink hood, purple hood. I'm not sure if it's Nisa or Latara. Well, it can't be Latara because her hat is different. But anyways, so they had their little Ewoks. They were watching the Ewoks cartoon, and my heart was full.
Love that.
That was our week.
So what did you decide? Did you tell your younger daughter to push past the fear, or did you tell your older daughter that she needs to have patience with her younger daughter? Which Star Wars lesson did you teach them?
That's terrible. I was like, I'm going to cover your eyes. And I just covered this. That's actually what my mom did. That's what my mom said. It was Return of the Jedi when I was scared. She just covered my eyes, even though I was terrified. But I don't know what. But so that's what I did, carrying on the tradition.
I would love it if that's what Yoda did with Luke in the Dagobah cave when he started to bring his fear in there with him. Yoda's just like, your eyes, cover them.
Yeah, I was like, it's not real. It's a cartoon. But, you can't, 3-year-old at that, they can't rationalize. They don't understand that.
No.
I can't rationalize it. They're like, Grace is like, look, you want to watch this scary movie? I'm like, no, I don't do that. No one's there to cover my eyes.
Me too.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'll go to mine because it wasn't much, and I didn't have a lot of cool pictures. A lot of great stuff coming out there. I'll tell you what I did. Star Wars found me in a fun way. I went to my comic shop, which is now Earth 2 in Sherman Oaks. They've switched, and it's kind of an ordeal. It takes me. It's closer on the map, and it takes longer to get to because it's right at the heart of big LA, the 405 and 101 where they meet. My comic shop is under the freeway there. Mm-hmm. So I made a trip over there and picking up my comics. Got a lot of wonderful Star Wars comics I got to read and catch up on. Some of the new James Bond comics, which I'm actually enjoying. Mm-hmm. And I was checking out, and I turned around, and they had the Book of Boba Fett bag clip mystery bags. And, you buy them, and then you don't know what you're getting, right? Little kind of, it might even be Funko or a brand like Funko. They have that kind of feel. And I was like, of course I want one of these. I want 2 of these. So I actually filmed it, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel because why not? Everything's content. I was so happy, though. I got Black Chrysanthemum and the Fire Spray. And it brought me that little bit of Star Wars joy that, you need. We go deep into themes, we celebrate. And then there's moments where you open up a bag and you're like, hey, Black or Satin, I love that character. And you just get that rush of Star Wars nerd joy. So that was my unexpected Star Wars joyous adventure in a place where you'd expect to see Star Wars. But it was a little sidetrack mission that I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that we do need those returns to basics when, we talk about all the big picture stuff that we do, from the joyful, from discussing the themes to discussing some of the, sometimes, discourse being ugly. It's so great. We can just reconnect like, hey, look at this weirdo. I like him.
Exactly. Indeed. Yeah. No, some of it's great. Those discussions are great to have. And the comic shop has always been a pretty good spot for me. One of the managers is a big Star Wars fan. But he's one of the ones where it's flip a coin. I don't know what kind of conversation I'm going to have. Is it a day in which we're going to argue in the corner of a comic shop, or is it a day we're going to celebrate together? And he wasn't there, though I do love talking to him. He's a longtime fan, but it was fun. Like you said, the basics. So that was my adventure. Joseph, you celebrated a wedding anniversary, which is a special adventure.
Yeah, no, it was really, really great weekend. So my wife and I got married on November 17th, which of course everyone listening knows is Life Day. It was, I think it was after we'd actually scheduled it, and I was Googling like what significant things happened on this day. It's like Life Day. This is perfect. So it's always a fun celebration. This weekend, my wife and I went to Palm Springs in the general Palm Springs area, which we've never been to. Even though we've lived here in LA for a long time, it's only 2 to 4 hours away, depending on the traffic. It's just one of those fun things I have always heard of Palm Springs. I knew different bits and pieces about it, but I never got it. It's like, what's the deal? So it's a desert, right? And there are palm trees there. there are palm trees here. What's the deal? And it was really, really, really great, really wonderful. Is obviously known for like the mid-century modern architecture, which both Sarah and I are a fan of. So we got to see that. There's a Frank Sinatra, who I am a big fan of, and was really inspiring and helpful to me. His life story at different points in my life story, lived a lot of his life there. So it was really interesting because we were there for our anniversary, and frankly, just doing a lot of Sinatra stuff. We went to his favorite restaurant and one of his houses, and where he married his 4th wife, and visited his grave, and that was really meaningful for me. So it was weird that Star Wars kept finding me while we were doing explicitly not Star Wars things. Yeah, we went into this collectible vinyl store, and they also had a bunch of posters. So they had actual old vintage for real posters, and then they had a bunch of great 11x17 prints. And I found this print of an Empire Strikes Back poster that I did not know existed. Googling it, I think it was like a fan club thing, but it's a 10th anniversary poster. But it's 1990, but it's done in this kind of older style, and it's this huge picture of Vader with like the blade out, and then his hand reaching for the Falcon, and then like a little weird picture of Hoth. It's all blue and red. It's so beautiful because I went in there. It's like, I already have like 5 Star Wars posters that I haven't put up in my apartment yet. Right. I can't have another one. And I saw that one. It's like, I must have it. Sarah was very supportive
and appreciative, I'm sure.
Yeah, appreciative and supportive.
I don't think, in hearing you describe it, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody is in a place to Google Empire Strikes Back 10th anniversary poster, it pops right off. It's really it's almost designed to look a little like some of the early Star Wars posters before all the visuals kind of in the style cemented. So it's this kind of weird montage. And that was the other big part of the Star Wars adventure. There is my favorite Star Wars poster is the one for the re-release. The Charles White, the 1978 re-release with the circus poster, it's sometimes called, with where it looks like it's ripped, right. off the wall and all that. Charles White and Drew Struzan's first Star Wars poster. I love, and they had an actual one there at the store, and I was like, I can't afford it, but how much are you charging for that? And the nice person there was like, it's $750. I was like, that's cool. That's my favorite. And she was like, yeah, that one's great. That poster came out in 1977. And then the movie came out in 1978. And I was like, I don't want to be this person, but I can't.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the other way around. And she's like, no, it's not. Let me show you. And like, she showed me some things on the poster, and like, we just had one of those, like, I was like, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was for the re-release, which is why it says copyright 1978, because it was so popular. And it ended up being a nice conversation. She was like, interesting. I'll have to look into that. And then I was like, are we having a miscommunication? Because like, you're totally right. The poster came out in 78, but if we're talking about the movie, it came out in 1977.
Then you just drop a ForceCenter business card and say, look, this is my.
Yeah. Didn't want to get into it because she was very nice, and it ended up being a perfectly nice conversation. But it was one of those moments like that yelling Citizen Kane Kids in the Hall sketch of like, I know the answer.
Oh, great reference. I'm looking at the Empire Strikes Back 10th anniversary poster. This is great. If I've seen it, it's only been in the back of my mind and hidden from me. I don't recall this one. It's great.
Yeah, it's just such glaring red and blue. Yeah. Oh man, I love it.
Oh, that's great.
So awesome. Yeah. Lots of fun adventures. Thank you all for indulging me as I shared some of them.
No, love it. I think I said off air, I'll say it here. I think you and Sarah do a great job of getting away. That it's easy to forget that in life. You know,
it's really important to prioritize, and for me, the whole vibe of Palm Springs was it does encourage you to relax. It's like it has everything beautiful about LA, with less traffic and more of a weekend vibe all the time.
Oh, that's like that's a great ad. Permanently the weekend. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to getting out there. 25 years in LA. I've only passed through, never stopped. So one day. Speaking of passing through and not stopping, Bob Chapek. What a transition.
What a transition. I love it.
Star Wars news in a weekend stunner while Sir Elton John was saying farewell live on Disney Plus. The Walt Disney Company board announced that Bob Chapek had stepped down, they say, as Disney's CEO, and his replacement is the man he replaced, Bob Iger. That's right. Uncle Bob is back. The return of IgerCon. Here we go. So my Disney stocks are already on the rise. So this move has to be good, right? This has to be good. Iger's on a 2-year deal, which might be open-ended. Also includes him finding the right replacement, which, there's a lot there. And this is one of those, I'll just preface this. None of us are in those meetings, but I've already had conversations and texts with people who know this person. It's just an interesting, stunning business thing. And we don't talk business all the time over here, so we don't want to turn this into ForceCenter Money Line or Mad Money with Jim Cramer. But let's just dive in. Open forum, so to speak here. What do we think about this news, Jen? We'll start with you and your Ewoks.
I was shocked. I saw the news, the first breaking news I've gotten on Hive, which was very exciting. And I was like, what? This cannot be. I mean, I don't know if this is a thing that happens often in business, but at the same time, it kind of made sense because retirement is overrated from what I've heard from my parents, especially if you love what you're doing. And I think that Bob Iger enjoys it.
Yeah.
I think he has ideas, and I'm excited because he is not only an excellent businessman, but he's also a visionary. So I don't know. It was shocking, but in the best way.
Yeah, no, I get it. And we'll all three of us will probably say, hey, be careful of, worshiping CEOs.
Yes. Right.
All those things. We've been talking before. I know Joseph and I don't know if it was during your hiatus, Jen, but we had read Iger's book. And look, if you're going to have one CEO, billionaire type to kind of root for, Iger seems to be, at least have some characteristics and traits that make him worthy of it there. So I get it. He seems to be full of charisma. And I get this kind of move here, but Joseph, bring you in on this. What about the Bobs here?
Oh, shocked and not shocked at the same time. Thrilled. I think I was not shocked that Chapek was asked to step down.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's like it feels so often in life that like, hey, there are solutions, but they're just never going to happen.
Right.
Yes.
Iger stepping back in feels both shocking because it isn't like entirely normal, obviously, for the business world, but it's like the obvious solution of, Iger put all this work into setting up, honestly, his legacy, right? Of doing right by Disney, having a vision, fulfilling the vision, and then just setting the bird off to soar. And then the pandemic hits, and Chapek has multiple unforced errors and self-owns, and this bird that Iger prides himself and wrote a whole book about setting off just slams into a brick wall immediately, right?
Oh, geez. Yes,
That
yes.
it makes sense from Iger to be like, I am personally invested. Of course, my job is to make value for shareholders, right? But he is also personally invested. So why wouldn't he swoop in? I think there are also some things about the sort of generational tale of preparing the thing that you're caring for, mentoring somebody to be really the right person to take it over. And it seems like Iger didn't feel like that happened. In my opinion, that this is really weird, but like this news just totally reminded me of Doctor Who. There haven't been that many showrunners, leaders, creative leaders of Doctor Who since it came back in 2005, and Russell T Davies was the first one, and he kind of set up Stephen Moffat to take over. And then there wasn't necessarily an obvious next person after Stephen Moffat. And then that next person didn't really set up the next generation. And now Russell T Davies is coming back almost exactly like Bob Iger to launch Doctor Who. So it's very strangely similar in some ways.
I love where our minds go with this. I go to as often I go to sports, and I look. I said this with Ron Howard got brought in, where it's like sometimes there's a little bit of chaos, something's not working, so you go bring in the old retired coach that kind of just is the interim for the last 4 games of the season and maybe gets to the promised land. The Houston Astros just won a world title doing this. They had a lot of the cheating controversy, everything. So they bring in old Dusty Baker, retired kind of Hall of Fame level manager, comes on in, and he led them to a World Series. And that there's kind of that steady hand kind of vibe. I also think of Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft. Roosevelt doing the whole, Taft's my replacement. He's my protege. I don't like what he's doing. I'm going to try to run against him. Worked out a little different for Roosevelt. But here we've got Iger. And I'm fascinated with it. And we're going to talk about how it relates to Star Wars. And you're both saying just good things about it or things I agree with. It's just the idea that Iger does seem to really respect the creative side of things, has an understanding. I don't know Chapek personally, right? He seemed like he was in a tough task, tough spot. Not, pandemic hits, but you said it right, Joseph. Unforced errors and self-owns that just continue to happen and continue to have widespread ramifications within the company. And reading some of these stories that his performance on the last ChapekCon call got him was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. Based on the board being kind of split and this move on a weekend that came together fast, it's going to make a great docuseries one day, I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
I love the way you started our whole discussion, Ken, by saying we're not experts, and there's so much about running a company as large as Disney and all the way it interacts between the politics of the board and who's investing and who's buying shares and how ESPN relates to your choices in Star Wars. There's so much that I don't know and I don't understand, which only makes it to me more shocking that some of the self-owned unforced errors are from Chapek have been so bonkers, right?
Right.
That when Scarlett Johansson raised, being upset about the money relationship between streaming versus what she'd been promised for the Black Widow, theatrical release, to send out an immediate public response, escalating the fight, that's not I don't understand the complexities of this. That's just obviously not great, right? The entire handling of the Don't Say Gay bill, which Iger would have opposed and did publicly oppose. It's not just that Chapek didn't, it's that he sent an internal email explaining why he didn't. And how could you be in that position and not know that internal email is going to be released to everyone? It's those kind of things for me of I'm sure there are a million things that are incredibly difficult to navigate that, you need to be that kind of high level experience to navigate. And maybe he did great at some of those, but some of these really public facing, why would you do that? Are the things that I'm responding to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And Jen, I definitely want to get more of your thoughts here. And I don't know what you can or cannot say, Jen, but you've had some time working in the parks, right? You've been there, and that was Chapek's kind of division. That was what he was doing. And as a former maker of dreams in a theme park for kids and guests, do you feel like the Iger of it all, the Chapek of it all? Does it get down to those levels?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's why people love Iger so much. And I think it's one of the reasons why we've talked about him is because he's transparent, right? At least he seems transparent, and he gets out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as he can be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As far as he can be. And he just gets out there and he just says it. And he also is not afraid to praise certain creators or I don't know, he just seems to speak from the heart more. And I think that people in the parks especially respond to that. I don't know why. Now I want to read his book, to be honest, because I want to hear more of his thoughts. But I am curious to know more about this board, because I do know that boards in business and nonprofits and stuff like that, they can have a lot of power. And, who knows if they're going to want to keep him on. And maybe he'll be happy to stay on beyond the 2 years, because I think it's going to be hard to find a replacement in 2 years. I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. This Iger news was a big topic in the online Star Wars space, even as it switched to Hive. Which, are we saying all the buzz on Hive? Have we determined?
What is it?
What did you say, Joseph? You said you emailed something. I think it should be the official
Swarm.
Swarm. Why do we think this is so? I mean, I think it's a continuation of our conversation here about Iger, just and what people feel of him here. But this is Star Wars news officially, because it's the business side. But as Star Wars fans, we all seem to be celebrating the return of Uncle Bob. Joseph, please, what's the insight on this? Because I'm fascinated with this.
I think that, excuse me, I had a little something in my throat, a little bit too much weekend fun. I think that Iger, in general, we're in a much more transparent era, right? Mm-hmm. Like when I was younger and I was not into kind of Disney as a brand, I remembered hearing adults seem to have strong opinions about Michael Eisner. What is that? I don't even know what's going on. So obviously I know for some people it's been something they've paid attention to for a long time, but I think the Star Wars community, there's just generally more transparency about decision making. I think Iger himself has been just a little bit more forthright in his interviews. Taking kind of personal responsibility for specific things, saying that, hey, I really thought that MCU should diversify, right, in lots of ways, and really encouraging and championing the making of Black Panther, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In other movies like that, taking responsibility for the release window of Solo, saying, I thought the summer was the right move, but I think it was too close together. Don't blame Kathy. That was an IgerCon decision. My bad. I think some really direct things on what audiences see and feel. He has been very forthright in interviews. So I think, and if you've read that book, that The Ride of a Lifetime, you kind of feel like you get to know the guy a little bit and get to know a little bit how he made these decisions. And the final thing for me is why Iger might feel really like news in Star Wars is, he's where a lot of what we are all experiencing started. He's the one who bought Star Wars. He's the one who got Disney Plus going. He's the one who kickstarted this era of Star Wars, So it is related to what we're all seeing, experiencing, talking about.
Yeah, there's something pretty important and poignant and powerful of this. All the Disney Plus adventure, so to speak, starts with Mando, right? And that's the first out of the gate, and that's also production windows and this and that. But I don't know, it just seemed purposeful to me, and that's something that was Iger's. I guess you could say his baby, but it's something he was pretty on about early on, the Disney Plus thing. So I think tying it to Mando makes a lot of sense to me. Him being I think you're right, taking some ownership for some of the stuff. And just seemingly being someone, even in this era of stocks and bottom lines and ledgers. And I think Chapek was set to make some massive budget cuts, layoffs, and more things to help the overhead, so to speak. And there's certainly no guarantee that Iger won't have to do something similar. this has been a weird period, but so it doesn't mean he's not going to lay off anybody. We don't know that yet, but he might. But he seems to, in a lot of his speeches, even on his way out, a lot of people saying he was throwing shade at Chapek with the data, the numbers. That's not the whole story. You got to take chances. Highlighting, the Black Panther film the first time out. So it just seems like, I don't know. There's a warmth to Iger, and therefore Star Wars fans, we want to see creativity grow in that warmth, I guess, Jen. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it is interesting because Bob Chapek really felt more like a businessman and not as much as a good front man. Like he's not as charming. I always just think of like Bob Iger walking around Galaxy's Edge, like he just seems like he can talk to anyone and he can relate to people. Bob Chapek doesn't really seem like that as much. And I just think about like IgerCon. Remember how we used to always talk about IgerCon with his investors calls? I don't remember having a Chapek con. Maybe I missed it. But granted, we have to think about what we were talking about with the pandemic. Like, this has been a tough road for Bob Chapek, And so there's been a lot of things happening. And quite frankly, I'm sure a lot of his news has not been so great. So that's why he kind of feels like a downer. But then he doubles down on these things, like you said, Joseph, and it just makes it worse. Like, maybe just don't say anything. If you don't have anything positive to say, then don't say anything at all. That's the Disney way.
The Disney way. Way.
Yeah. And with everything with the Don't Say Gay bill, I think it was, the internal email and then taking a stand kind of much later after realizing, how much he had hurt people with how he handled it, and then ending up with the same result anyway of what he was kind of trying to avoid, extremely, extremely complicated. And we've talked about that whole issue a bit, but, so look back to past episodes for more details on that. But I think a lot of it is about Iger's experience with the creative side. Obviously, like Jen, you're saying, he comes across personable, right? Like these kind of huge business roles kind of demand somebody who has a little bit element of being a performer, of the circus ringmaster, right? Who really has a little bit of savvy at talking, and like, I'm not saying Iger's got to be out there doing bits, but it's a public facing role, and I think he's got that charm, but he also just has this massive history of creativity. He's the guy who took a huge chance and gave the green light to Twin Peaks, and then he interfered with it and canceled it. And in his book goes like, I learned a lot from that. If you got real creative people, you got like Lynch and Frost, you got to give them a little bit of elbow room, because you're not going to make it better by going in there, So I think there's a ton of that. I just want to read this quote from the article real quick, Jen.
Okay.
It says, in his last formal appearance before the Disney board and top executives, Iger had given a rousing speech about the importance of creativity that many within the company interpreted as a slam at Chapek. Iger says, in a world in business that is awash with data, it is tempting to use data to answer all of our questions, including creative questions, he said. I urge all of you not to do that. To me, that quote is sort of the linchpin of what people are feeling. We've been talking about it with the weird metrics with Andor. We're like, are we talking about ratings? Are we talking about how many people are watching? Are we talking about how many people are tweeting? And that kind of risk of being in an algorithm world. The fact that Iger's like, that stuff's all valuable, but that's not what a creative decision is. I think that's what a lot of people are feeling.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and this is one of those, I ain't in the meetings. I'm not even on the text messages. I was chatting with some folks last night. Actually, our mutual friend Ken Plume, Joseph, he had some insights there, so I definitely want to tribute Ken. But the thoughts of Disney is in disarray, with a lot of longtime employees being asked to move to Florida during a time when maybe a lot of them don't want to. So a lot of them are retiring, a lot of big creative folks, a lot of creators having trouble, maybe considering working with Disney because of some of the big unforced and public airs. So a lot of that kind of was factoring in there. And Iger definitely seems like he'll bring some calm. Again, it's a cult of personality thing. I'm not going to worship anyone in a suit and tie too much, but I've always liked Bob. I just always like Iger.
Yeah.
And that book, again, it's a polished tale. Of course it is. But it's a book about his failures more than his successes and what he learned from them. And I thought that was at least a good way to approach it. It's easy to be cynical. And again, we're learning a lot about the elevation of our troubled geniuses out there, our billionaire creators. It goes even beyond Twitter and Elon and everything. I can see it being a problem. So we'll see. But hey, look, like I was saying earlier, Chapek was very publicly planning on massive budget cuts, these layoffs. There was a hiring freeze. And look, there's Disney Plus has the fourth quarter did on the streaming side, they did lose money. There's all this kind of complex things that, I don't fully understand. I'm not going to pretend to. But I do want to ask as we round this, discussion up here about how do we feel about Star Wars future with a good old Uncle Bob around? You mentioned it, Joseph. He's had some successes, but he also, made the solo release schedule was a snafu. You're talking about the Twin Peaks thing back in the day. His mishandling, along with other people, for sure, of George's ego during the sale. Or what happened? There has been mistakes. He's not a savior here, but with the movie side having a lot of questions around it. Unclear future at times, whether that's true or not, or whether it's perception, whether Lucasfilm is on the hook for announcing things they're not actually announcing, as we discussed recently in the news. There's some questions. And so with Uncle Bob back in, he's down the street here. I thought about going down to the Riverside Studios and seeing if Uncle Bob's going to pull in about 7:30 in the morning. See, maybe he got like a box of pink donuts to like bring into the break room. I'm back. Hey, everybody.
Oh my gosh,
donut. So either he was in the Glendale or the Burbank offices. We'll see. He's there right now making decisions. What do we feel about Star Wars future with Uncle Bob around for at least 2 years, Jennifer?
I am really excited. I'm going back to the parks thing really quickly. I worked with people who had been there, working since pretty much not the park opened, but, like 30 years. And people would stay there until they retired, even if it was like what we call a fuzzy character portraying Donald Duck. I mean, there was a dad and his son who were playing Donald. I mean, it was amazing. And the reason why is because Disney has always been known to be a great company to work for, in the sense that like it was reliable. So the fact that there was like these massive layoffs that were coming, it's kind of uncharacteristically Disney, or at least if it is Disney, they usually would present it in a way like they would handle it a little bit better. So I feel like with Uncle Bob, I feel like I can relax, even though I'm not invested. I don't have any stakes in this game except for Star Wars. I think that they're going to continue to work on the streaming stuff. Maybe he might help ramp up the movies more. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it because, like I said, I think that he knows how to speak to creatives, and he's not like a quote unquote suit, even though he is. Like he gets it. Oh my gosh, I would love to be in those offices today. Can you imagine the welcome?
Let's go. Let's all three meet over there. Let's see if we can get into the gate. Say, hey, we got a gift. Is Uncle Bob here? We got a gift for him. A welcome back gift.
Yes, from ForceCenter.
I love all that. Yeah, I love all that, Jen. Yeah, and the Disney again. It's a corporation, and there's dark sides. We all understand that, but Disney does have a bit of a family type of vibe in some of the areas, which again was part of the thing of a lot of longtime employees being asked to move to Florida during this time period right now. A lot of them just didn't want to, and there was some stuff going on there. Hiring freezes, the conversation out there about Chapek taking away some of the creative power and freedoms from Lucasfilm and other companies like that and other people. So Joseph, is Uncle Bob going to take us all to El Cap and announce an entire slate of movies?
I hope that he makes some announcements. Maybe just has a party. Just like, what? I'm just going to bring out some great people and we can all applaud. No, I'm very curious to see how he handles the streaming balancing act, right? Because I think streaming's kind of had its first phase and now it's kind of entering that, like, what is the right amount of storytelling to come out to keep people still excited? And what is the amount, like with the MCU or maybe Star Wars, but certainly with the MCU, what is too much and people can't even keep up with it and we're not actually delivering? What is the right balance needed to make streaming right? I think that's one of the things that he's going to be really interested in, since with Solo, he has experience of sometimes less is more. What's the balance? So I'm really curious to see how he approaches streaming. And then the kind of the big picture thing that I think, Jen, you were really talking about with the the park stuff is I think that Iger is very aware of it is a business. But what the business ultimately sells is magic.
Yes.
So you can't let the audience see or feel the business too much, or it cuts into the magic. And I think he's honest about that. I think he understands it. And I think just emails of like from Chapek, like, sorry everybody, but Donald Duck, you're laid off, right? Like they don't have a delicacy to what the situation is and how to preserve the magic. Around the time that Obi-Wan was airing and the show, and I was so deeply enjoying the themes, the acting, the direction, but it was hard not to notice the budget being kind of shockingly low for an Obi-Wan show. Yes. For a show with Obi-Wan, Vader, and Leia as some of the main characters. And I have no idea how that happened. Don't anybody quote me. But at the exact same time that was all kind of unfurling, Sarah and I watched the Imagineering documentary that kind of launched with early on in Disney Plus. There's a whole big section on it about kind of an era where Michael Eisner kind of panicked about money and just started making Disney stuff kind of cheap. And then Iger swept in and like, you can't do that. Even if you take a big financial risk, it's got to feel special because that's what we're selling. You can't have, bargain basement magic. It ruins the illusion, right? So it was really weird to be watching that Imagineering documentary about how Bob Iger set the ship right, and then watching Obi-Wan be like, this is the lesson they've learned in the past. Like that's the last show to kind of back off the budget on the special effects. And I have no idea if that was why that happened. But if it was, Chapek, I think that's the kind of thing we're not going to see. Yeah.
Yep.
We can only hope. Yeah. And again, we'll see. And it's weird. We are having this discussion, and it's a discussion we need to have here on a Star Wars podcast because Iger's been all over Star Wars the last few years here since the sale, which was part of his one of his legacy moves. But growing up, it's like I think George was the only businessman I knew growing up. Lee Iacocca, is that an answer? I don't know. I don't know. And one other one, and that didn't work out for the world. So this is fascinating stuff. We are not experts on business or the insights. Even if we hear things we don't know, we're not on those calls, but it is definitely fascinating. It's definitely interesting. And Uncle Bob is back. So fire up those IgerCon t-shirts. I think Brian Ward's still selling some. We'll have some more. And then maybe we'll be discussing Iger's replacement or his announcements of Star Wars movies very soon. We'll see. All right. Any final thoughts? I don't leave anything on the table. Kind of an open forum conversation today. Jen, any final thoughts on Uncle Bob?
No, but Joseph, you make a great point about the Obi-Wan show. Watching Andor, I'm just blown away every week about special effects and the sets and the costumes, everything. It feels like a movie. And I think that's why they're now going to be airing it on ABC and Hulu and whatever, because they're like, look at this fantastic show, guys. This is on Disney Plus. Don't you want to subscribe? Right. And I feel like they could have done that with Obi-Wan, but for whatever reason, it does have those moments where it does feel kind of small. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love it. It's a fantastic show, and the acting is phenomenal. But there were moments where you definitely feel it. Yeah.
And that's the truth. And we ain't afraid of those truths around these parts. We're just here to celebrate all the things in them there. Joseph, any final thoughts on Uncle Bob?
No, I think, with the Obi-Wan thing, that is really me speculating, perhaps irresponsibly. So like I said, don't run out and quote me that ForceCenter says Chapek cut the budget on Obi-Wan. I think it's just that it makes me think about, like, I think Iger is very, very, very well aware of, of putting polish and magic on everything. And when it stumbles a little bit, coming out and going, whoops, sorry. Next one will be better. And that feels a little bit more human. And I think that's good.
Yeah. I like that idea. All right. Another quick story. This was going to be our headline today. Wow. What a switch. But it's a fun little story. I did want to talk about. We'll talk about it kind of quickly here. Fun news and then a total silly discussion here. So speaking of all the business, speaking of the parks, speaking of the magic, it's all relevant here. This past week, to much joy and fanfare, the Mandalorian, Din Djarin himself, and Grogu arrived at Disney's Galaxy Edge, that land, a.k.a. Batuu. This had been previously announced at D23 in September. The appearance brought out some great videos and some wonderful park guest reactions. I want to talk about the love of Mando and Grogu and what that means for Star Wars and what it means for Iger, because this was the first show he launched it all with. It's pretty fun to watch there. So Joseph, I know you spent some time at Batuu. We did not get to run into Mando or Grogu yet. What do you think about this?
Yeah, oh no, I love it. I think as we're ramping up the excitement for the return of Mando and Grogu in season 3, I think it's great. It's just kind of great to see them walking around. They have that sort of iconic silhouette that Kathleen Kennedy talked about. Every Star Wars character has their iconic silhouette of like, ooh, that's Mando, and he's got the baby in a sack. And I think they're so lovable because they are, they're just a key relationship in all of Star Wars in this really interesting package. It's parent and child, it's found family, it's the Force and a cool guy in armor. It's like so many ideas of Star Wars packaged in this one image of the two of them.
Yeah, it's a great image. It brings me joy even when I see that guy riding around the Studio City of Burbank area on his motorized skateboard with full Mando armor and Grogu. I see him all the time at the red light, and I just smile. It's like I was talking about with the toys I'm pulling out of the comic shop bags. There, it's just like that simple joy, and I love that these are both brand new characters that we never heard of before 2019, and now they're part of our heart. In a very strong way there. So Jen, Mando, I don't want to keep saying Mando and Grogu.
I was surprised but delighted. And when I saw the videos with little Grogu, I was like screaming. I haven't even showed my kids yet. I know they'll freak out. And I'm excited. Now it actually makes me want to go back. I mean, I like Galaxy's Edge, but that really would be fantastic. And I do wonder if they have a handler with them, just because I imagine that they would get mobbed. But so adorable. And it's kind of a perfect character because you don't have to worry about, finding somebody that looks like Pedro Pascal. You can just put an actor in the helmet and have him walk around. But he's got, whoever is in there got the swagger down. I really like it.
I love that. Maybe it is the guy who rides around on a skateboard because he what a move. But again, it's probably multiple folks in there. But look, it's Star Wars. This is a silly discussion point, right? I want to make sure everyone's clear. We're not having a super serious discussion about this, but it's Star Wars and it's Star Wars fandom. This stuff comes up. The appearance doesn't come without some discourse. So Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, even Darth Vader, I think I've seen around, have been found on Batuu already. This truly upsets the timeline of Batuu and Galaxy's Edge. So again, with a wink of a nod, let's discuss. Do we like the idea of Batuu staying timeline specific? Prior to this, it was completely after Last Jedi. It was on almost a specific day. You had that wonderful book by Delilah S. Dawson. Vi Moradi featured prominently in that. Art checks, all that stuff. And Kylo was on his way, and that was kind of the story, and you kind of got to play out that adventure there. So this is a bit of a change, at least right now. So, Jenna, I'll start with you here. You're excited. Your kids are excited, but are you going to have to explain canon to them?
I rolled up my sleeves because I do have a little, not a bone to pick, but I will say, I wish I read that Galaxy's Edge book. I really liked it. And I like the land, but I do wish that they had not been so married to keeping Batuu in a specific timeline. I think that the timeline is limiting. I know that when I went there with my kids, who, their knowledge of Star Wars is obviously limited, but they were like, what? I maybe if they had Ewoks walking around, that might help, right? But one of the things I loved about Tomorrowland as a kid was that it had this kind of futuristic element to it. And I was kind of hoping when Star Wars Land was announced that it would have some of that part of it. Galaxy's Edge feels very earthly. And so I do have I know that they wanted to make it immersive and this and that. It, to me, and obviously I'm an adult, it doesn't quite feel as immersive as, quite frankly, Tomorrowland still does. It's odd. And I'm sure I'm in a minority here because I'm nitpicking. I mean, it's fantastic to see the Falcon. It's, Oga's Cantina. There's a lot of fun things. And my kids did like seeing Kylo Ren. They really enjoyed that. That was great. But I don't know. I think I had high expectations, like of droids wheeling around.
No, and not a family from Kansas walking through and not playing along with the storyline. That was my problem. No, I don't. Look, the world's immersive in terms of just walking around. I didn't see a lot of characters the day I was there. It was also pouring rain after 8:30 in the morning, so they weren't probably wandering around as much. But yeah, it was immersive in a different way. But I to your point, Jen, I kind of see where you're coming from. Where I guess they could only go so far, and maybe that could be something going forward. But anyways, Joseph, you've been there more recently than I, if I remember. Your thoughts on timeline specifics in Batuu?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to stay timeline specific. I like the parts of the narrative that the rides being there. I like Rey and Kylo being there because, especially people who are kind of growing up with the sequel trilogy, I think it's great for them to see the characters that they connected with. I think there's a lot of great things about the setting. But I think the suspension of disbelief only goes so far, right? It'd be one thing if they kind of shut it down and let 20 people in at a time,
Yeah.
But it's just pulsing through with people with Mickey ears and churros, and the last time I was there was some older mom, I think, with their daughter, like her adult daughter, and the older mom clearly was maybe heard of a Star Wars once, and why do they all have sticks? Why are there so many glowing sticks?
Oh my gosh.
Another couple's taking what looks like their engagement photos in front of the Falcon, and then this lady is like, well, why do they have sticks? And her daughter's yelling, it's Star Wars, the space movie. Well, why are we here? You can drink here now. Okay. There's already only so much that you can entirely immerse yourself in the fantasy by the nature of it. So I don't mind it being broken to have Mando and Grogu walk through. And I think if you want to headcanon it, Grogu's really taken a long time to grow up. And Mando's aging just fine under the helmet. If they get a young Han Solo walking around, okay, then I have to say, you know what, they're cosplayers. These are people who live in Batuu, and this one is cosplaying legendary scoundrel General Han Solo. Fine.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. This is great. Look, I think it was a big swing. I love the Last Jedi setting, the post Last Jedi setting. I was into it. I wanted to say bright suns to everyone, but I know that wasn't going to be a shared experience. But yeah, you can only go so far with it. Especially, I love your idea, Joseph, of 20 people at a time. It would be horrible. People would be
awful.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be a mess. You have to get up at 5 a.m. to sign up on the app. It would be a mess. But yeah, I was a fan of it because I think I just understood it was a specific magic. I didn't want a lot of people were complaining at the time, a lot of it in bad faith, to be honest, about, geez, Kathleen, why don't you give us just this? And it was, just a ride from every era or something like that. That wouldn't have been as special to me. So I agree with the swing, but as time goes on, my question to you both was, would it be open to timeline switches? I think you both are. Would you want to experience go there and it's the Clone Wars era and Thrawn and Anakin are walking around? Would you want something like that? You just got to know that it's different every quarter. It's like Fortnite. I've been obsessed with Fortnite again, and they switch seasons and everything becomes new every few months. You want to play in that world, Jen?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, obviously we can't go to the prequels, right? I mean, the setting is just so specific. I could see if they bring in an old man Luke, that'd be kind of fun. Maybe even Ezra, Ahsoka. There are some possibilities where it doesn't jump too much to where it's like, oh, like you're saying, Joseph, okay, this is hard for me to rationalize. What headcanon am I going to come up with? But that could be fun. I really feel like it does need some more characters in there. Personally, I think that that would be a really nice touch. Maybe even some puppets from afar. I don't know, something.
Yeah. I can see that. I think, they already have backed off some of the amount of immersiveness,
Yes.
they backed off with some of the food names being like, you had to be kind of in Star Wars to know what, Tip Yip was right, or Yip Tip was, and I think the phone games ended up not being as immersive as they originally announced, right? Where if you crash the Falcon, the bartender was going to know and make fun of you kind of thing.
Right.
I think they backed off on that level of immersion. But I think where the Last Jedi timeline is the most powerful for me is, like I said, seeing kids see Rey seeing kids see Kylo. But the parts of the park that are actual storytelling, the Rise of the Resistance ride is really powerful, particularly if you get yourself into the spirit of, I'm with the Resistance, right? It also worked great for savvies if you've built a lightsaber that like I don't want to get into spoilers. It's built into the timeline well. So I think I'd be happy to see it's a little bit of bleed with the characters wandering around. We'll have to use our imagination. And then I think with like, especially Rise of the Resistance being such a huge ride and so tied to that time, I think maybe the 10-year anniversary of Galaxy's Edge, they jump to a different timeline.
Ooh, that could work.
That'd be great. Now you're both saying great things here, and I was going to ask, the value of the guest experience being set in a time like this. I think you're kind of already answering it in a wonderful way, Joseph. There, but the Avengers campus across the way doesn't adhere to this. They can rely on the multiverse, which I've actually already seen in articles. It's so weird, kind of like, well, Marvel has the multiverse, so that's a different feeling over there. But Jen, you're already touching upon it with the kids. They're going to react to Kylo, or they're going to react to Rey. Even Joseph, you bringing up that. Well, I reacted to those characters as well. Vi Marathi is a character from the novel, from the comics. I hope Vi sticks around. But yeah, I think there's we've reached the point of there's some value in turning the corner and maybe seeing Chewbacca or something like that,
Yes, that would be great. I think also initially when I thought about Star Wars Land, as it was called initially, I was thinking it was going to be more like a fantasy land or an adventure land where it's a vibe, right? But there are, like I guess you mentioned, there might be different rides related to different eras. And I think that could have worked. And here's the thing. I haven't actually been on either the Falcon ride or the Rise of the Resistance. And I do feel like that is limiting my experience in Galaxy's Edge. So I think I have, once I get my kids so that they can stay in one part of the land and I can go ride these rides, or maybe my 7-year-old can go with me. But I do think that plays into the experience of Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
No. I think we should pause and Jen go down the 5 and go to the rides right now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I wish.
Yeah. I mean, I think the value is a ton of it is in the rides. I think the pandemic stepped on it, and I don't know how much they've come back, but they used to, the first time I went there, the immersion was more immediate, right? I walked in with my Rebel insignia shirt, and somebody worked there was like, you better not let Kylo or the stormtroopers see that, and asked me if I want to come over in the corner and play chance cubes.
Oh wow, yeah, very.
And like I had to change the direction I was going to the bathroom once because there's a stormtrooper in the way, and like they're gonna stop me and give me grief about my t-shirt, and I just need to go to the bathroom. Rey, was sneaking around with kids, teaching them how to sneak. In Chewie too, or like teaching kids how to sneak from the First Order, and I don't know if that level of kind of in the park immersion in the conflict between the Resistance and the First Order is still going on. And I think that was a part of the storytelling when it launched.
Well, I'm going to return. I'm going to make it part. I'm going to get everyone involved. I'm going to start screaming at stormtroopers there. Some silly questions to take us home here in the first half of our show today. When we meet Mando and Grogu, what are we going to say to them, Joseph? What's you're going to absolutely immerse yourself and play along, right? Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the way to play along though for me is absolutely no, this is the way jokes, because I bet a lot of dads are like, hey, which way's the bathroom? Is this the way?
Oh my gosh.
I think I would maybe ask, like, I'm pretty sure I can't feed Grogu, but what's the rule? Because I think a lot of people would try to feed Grogu.
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing for Mando is just a stoic nod, just nodding at him.
It's just nodding. I love that. I was going to say, I'm going to invest in the $100 space macaroons and just try to tempt him. And I know it's like an animatronic puppet or something. Maybe it's just a puppet. I don't know. But the guy's going to finally have to be like, hey, guy, get away. Stop. There's kids more pictures.
Oh my gosh.
Jen, you turn that corner. You got the family.
Oh my gosh. I would freak out. I would be the one that, sorry, I'm getting too excited here. I would probably be one of those people that's, this is the way. I'd make that silly joke. And then I would ask for a photo immediately. And I would just be in awe we all freak out when I go to the cons and I see a Chewbacca cosplayer. I feel like a kid again. And that's part of why I love Star Wars so much, is because it can make me feel that and take away my cares for a temporary moment. And I will say, just a tip: if you go to the parks on a slow day, the face characters do have more time to interact with you, and they can do more fun things, like you're saying, Joseph, about taking the kids along for an adventure. Sometimes you might even see a face character on a ride because it's so slow. I don't know if that happens as much anymore, but when I was back in the day, we used to do fun things like that. So who knows? Maybe Rey is still. Maybe you can get Mando in a slow moment and have an adventure with him and Grogu.
Yeah, imagine it's going to be tough to get out in there. All right, final question, though. What other characters out there? And you're right, Joseph, you're right. Chewbacca was already kind of running around Batuu. You can also go to the other side and Tomorrowland and get a photo with him over there, too. But what other characters do we want to meet in the park? We turn those corners, or we come cutting in line in front of 8-year-olds to get our photos with what characters? Joseph, who do you want to meet?
B2 emo. I want to know that he's safe. He's all right.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Wow.
Yeah, the lines for B2 would be.
Can you imagine?
A lot of
the lines to just give him a hug, right?
Yeah, everyone's crying. Why is everyone crying in this line? I just want to hug B2. Cassian. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't take it.
Jen, any answer there?
Well, I was going to say R2. That's boring in comparison.
R2's great.
But Ewoks, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Ewoks, all day, every day now. Bo-Katan could be cool. That'd be also easier again, because you get somebody who's the right height,
Yeah.
Maybe she could have some interaction with Mando. That might be fun. I mentioned Ahsoka, Ezra. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless in that time period. Finn? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Poe? Yeah, there actually are a lot of possibilities.
I love this. I'm going to go. Book of Boba Fett's on my mind a lot lately, mostly because in discussing Andor, I've been defending Book of Boba Fett to a lot of friends of mine offline. It's a weird. It's been a weird 2 weeks. I'm going to say this. I would love to have Black Chrysanthemum walking around, old Santy.
Yes,
and then they'd be like,
one.
why is that old guy helping Santy find bounties? What's he doing? He's sneaking around with Santy. Because you could find some big pro wrestling sized guy, put him in that outfit and have a giant. Now, the question is whether you'd put him into the cantina and get him just drunk, mad at Trandoshans during the day.
Oh, I would love that.
And then I want to turn the corner and I want the twins there. I want to just have the twins sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Just that would be great.
Just giant animatronic huts sitting there. That's probably not going to happen. Maybe Uncle Bob. That's going to be my suggestion in the suggestion box in the break room.
Yeah, we got some pitches, Bob. Ewoks and the twins.
Well, there you go. For the big news of Bob Iger to the even bigger news of Mando and Grogu. We're going to take a quick break here on the side, share some Thanksgiving spirit stuff here around the Star Wars world. Before we do that, we're going to give you our ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should still try out on us. Joseph, what do you got?
You should still check out Padawan by Kirsten White. We are reading this book. I brought this book with me to Palm Springs and got too tired to read it, but I am going to read it and we are going to discuss it.
We are going to discuss it when I finally stop playing Fortnite like a 12-year-old. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. All right, quick break. On the other side, we're going to be thankful about Star Wars and a special look back in Star Wars history. Aren't they all special? Stick around for more ForceCenter. Welcome back to ForceCenter, the big show, the main show, the superstar story of our fleet. At least it used to be in the old days. Now this is our wonderful look at Star Wars news. And Star Wars news has been pretty slow as of late. Thank you, Uncle Bob, for changing that. So we had fun last week, kind of not focusing on a news story, but spending some time on something specific. And, here in the States, Thanksgiving is this week. And I understand not everyone celebrates a holiday for various reasons. Some people do. We get it. But we want to take this time to tap into what I'm calling the present day spirit of the holiday and express our Star Wars thankfulness. Looking back on 2022, not quite an end of the year retrospective, but a chance for us here in ForceCenter to just say, hey, Star Wars, we love it, and we're thankful for these things. So we'll start big here with what is one 2022 experience or moment as a Star Wars fan we're thankful for, Jen?
I forgot that Book of Boba Fett came out. Well, it came out in 2021, but it didn't finish until earlier this year. And then we had Kenobi, and then we've had Andor, and there were so many wonderful things. But I think that for me, the highlight of this year was Star Wars Celebration. Being able to see my fellow friends in person again, it just felt so triumphant for a variety of reasons. There were so many things to celebrate, and it was a reminder about what I love about this community, and that is the community, the communal aspect of Star Wars. So that was definitely a highlight for me.
That's a great one. Joseph, you 2022, what are you thankful for?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Celebration was great. There have been some kind of surprise places where we've all run into ForceCenter listeners, and that's always really nice to be reminded that people enjoy what we do. It makes me enjoy doing this. It makes me enjoy, even just Star Wars even more. So those moments are always nice. The whole experience with the Princess and the Scoundrel book was a really great one. I loved that book. And particularly like the morning, I was just like, I'm kind of having a rough time this week. I'm just going to crack this open and see what it's like. I don't intend to start reading it. And I cracked it open, and it was Star Wars magic. It's Return of the Jedi is just continuing. And just wanted to keep reviewing it or reading it. And then, we had a great time discussing it. And that book was a big highlight for me.
Yeah, no, I love that. For me, on the personal side, I got the chance to pass on some Star Wars books to my niece, turning 10, and she's become a real big fan, dresses up as Darth Vader, and not to get into family issues, I don't talk to her much. Like it's one of those, we're trying to kind of open the lines of communication a little better, and it was great to find out she was a Star Wars fan, and I had a bunch of books to pass on, and my mom said, had presented her the books and was like, yeah, she liked them. She definitely liked them. And I was a little down. I was like, oh, I guess she didn't love them. And then a couple weeks later, my mom said, we couldn't even get her on the phone because she was in bed reading one of the Star Wars books. And I was like, okay. And, I'm not a parent, but Jen, I had that feeling of like, all right, at least they appreciate what I'm crazy about.
There is something special about that. Yes.
And one of the things for me, in terms of just being as a Star Wars fan, Star Wars Celebration, always great, always special. But Joseph and I huddling in our hotel room to watch Kenobi. Actually, that night, my hotel room, sliding in there, and I had to I had to find a way to make sure the internet. We were worried if the streaming was going to work, and we didn't officially have access to the Kenobi premiere event. But then we kind of probably could have got some wristbands, but we were just like, nah, this is for us. We're going to sit here and take this in silence. I think I was trying to crunch on candy quietly in the corner and not break my own rules. But it was just one of those fun moments, what it meant to us as longtime fans, what it meant to new fans watching the show wherever they were. I just have that memory of us like, here we go. It's Kenobi. We can't believe we're seeing this. It was fun.
Yeah, that was really great with the surprise. It's, it's bouncing up to like a normal prime time on the West Coast, right? And I brought my action figure over to Ken's room. Yeah. So Kenobi could watch himself and us both oohing and ahhing at Alderaan going, are we doing this? Are we doing this? Yeah.
Oh man, the Alderaan moment. That was great. What are some episodes or stories we're thankful for? I'll start here because Joseph, you mentioned one of my. I absolutely want to mention The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis. I love that book too, probably because it did catch me by surprise a little bit. Not that we talked about her as an author. We love Rebel Rising, so that wasn't a surprise at all. But it was promotion of the Halcyon, the hotel. And this book comes along and just, I've never been hooked faster after one page where I was like, this is some great Star Wars writing. So I want to express some thankfulness for that story. Two other ones, the Sith Lord, Tales of the Jedi, Chapter 5. Just kind of blown away by that one. Wasn't expecting them to go there, like literally some of those big moments in Star Wars. And also Book of Boba Fett, again, Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian at the beginning of the year. This is, a much talked about episode of that show, and, the lack of Boba Fett. I get the discussions, I get that, but I think it thematically lines up. But also it's just, as Joseph, you pointed out, the tale of two moms in Mando's life is powerful, but the way Bryce Dallas Howard and her team shot the hell out of that N1 Starfighter and brought in some prequel joy. Just love that episode. Really thankful for that as a Star Wars fan. So Jen, some specific episodes or stories or moments?
First up, I think of Kenobi and seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan coming back together again. Obviously, Hayden and Ewan coming back together again was so thrilling. And it was something that I was never, it's not like I was on my bucket list of things that I was looking forward to per se, but it really was phenomenal acting and great storytelling, and just watching Anakin / Vader being so broken and still trying to reclaim his power, not wanting to give Obi-Wan the satisfaction, right? In that final moment. It just was really gut-wrenching. And my second favorite story or storyline is what we've been seeing in Andor. The story of the rebellion, the sacrifices that all of these people have been making in different ways. And, just because somebody is in a quote unquote elite like Mon Mothma, she is still sacrificing things. She is still putting her life on the line for the sake of the galaxy. It's just been so great to watch, especially because a lot of the themes resonate with things that are happening in our world. So it's been really, really beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Joseph, you some specific episode stories, something you're thankful for?
Yeah, definitely. My mind goes to Kenobi first, a couple of specific episodes, but just also taking that big step back. And, I know times change and perspectives change, and we're in a period where we're just getting a lot of storytelling. So the more storytelling that's out there, then maybe it can feel a little less special. But for myself, seeing Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi was on my bucket list. It was like Axel and Slash got back together. Twin Peaks came back. I just need Ewan as Kenobi, and I'm kind of done. I'll be satisfied with the rest of my life. I won't ask for anything creatively, because, when Disney Lucasfilm kind of formed, it was a maybe, but it's easy to forget now how much the prequels were derided, right?
Yes.
Before the generation who grew up with them got a little bit older and really found their voice. Ewan McGregor coming back as Kenobi was like a maybe, because people loved him in the prequels and people loved Ewan McGregor, so maybe. But to go from the response of my contemporaries to the prequels, to the idea that Ewan could come back as Kenobi and with Hayden, and that would be a celebration. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we're really, really lucky that happened at all. And it used to seem totally impossible. So in terms of thankful, just sort of the existence of it, but also individually, to your question, Ken, Kenobi episode 3, where he has some of those great touching moments with Leia, talking about found family, talking about how he thinks he had a sibling, but the Jedi are his family, and relating to her about that, to the absolute darkness of Vader saying, "I am what you made me," and dragging him through the fire. That episode is that's fire to me. And then episode 6, where Kenobi really reclaims his power, literally in the Force, but also more importantly by him defining for himself what he wants it to mean to be a Jedi, and he wants it to be about protecting life, not taking it. Incredibly powerful. The Dooku episodes of Tales of the Jedi also, hugely meaningful and important and powerful to see that character. Book of Boba Fett, I agree with you so much, Ken, that I really understand it was wonky for people who are sitting down expecting a Boba Fett show to feel like they saw 2 episodes without Boba Fett. It's a barrier for a lot of people, and I get it. But I hope that someday, people can get past that barrier and enjoy those 2 episodes. Episode 5, and the one I wanted to highlight, episode 6. Luke and Grogu in that training. That's some of my favorite Luke stuff. That's the Luke I love, He's spoken riddles, teaching Grogu to jump and Grogu doing that little hop. There's so much in that episode that's really peaceful and beautiful when Luke, realizes Grogu just needs to feel the Force and bounding up to those reeds and looking at that beautiful, peaceful horizon. Like that stuff's beautiful. So really thankful for that episode. And then final one, agreeing with you, Jennifer, specifically episode 7 of Andor, announcement, that Mothma scene where she is sort of recruiting Tay Kolma, and you see both the prison that she's in and her power, right? Of I am willing to sacrifice everything. This is what I have sacrificed. I'm not backing down. It's such an incredibly powerful scene, and that's a huge one for me.
Great answers all around from you both there. That Kenobi stuff too. Yeah, it's easy to overlook it in this day and age. The discourse of that comes up with every new show that comes along, and I get it, and it's part of the price of the ticket, I guess, to being a Star Wars fan. But those are beautiful, beautiful episodes. Just Star Wars sonnets up there. Skywalker and Grogu in the Book of Boba Fett one as well. So what are some of the specific characters we're thankful? It could be new characters. It could be, the old favorites coming back and will bring in new chapters to their careers there and lives there. Jen?
Oh my gosh. Seeing Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma again has just been a delight. It's been a joy. She really is such a great actress, and they've given her a great storyline, and just seeing her wrestling with these big emotions every week and her terrible family, just getting to learn more about this character, which was always such a mystery to me as a kid, and a character that I wasn't really necessarily drawn to, and now I am, and I'm fascinated with her. Kino Loy, and specifically bringing back Andy Serkis, even though we know him as Snoke, it felt kind of triumphant being able to see him in his human form, as we've talked about, and just getting to be an actor. And I totally forgot that he was Snoke, except for a few moments, just because of his voice is, it's so deep. But yeah. And what the character also represents as well. Yeah. And seeing his kind of arc in Andor has been really great to watch.
Love that. Agree with that. Kino Loy's a great character. I'm thankful for young Leia, Vivian Lyra Blair, just bringing life to that character. Man, that's such a daunting task, and I, for one, think it really worked. Some other characters on my list, though, I just absolutely love Jennifer Beals as Garsa Fwip. I've said that so many times, but her speech to Santi, the one about change, the one about what was the past, and this is where we are now, and kind of a little bit about breaking the cycle, a lot of bit about breaking the cycles of violence. I think it's just such an important Star Wars speech by such an interesting, different take on a classic character, the Twi'lek, which we've had a certain view of over the generations in Star Wars, that she brought something different to it, and I love the character, and sad she's gone. Who knows? We don't actually, there could have been an escape hatch. We don't know. We don't know. It's Star Wars, so love her work there. B2 Emo. I mean, come on. I love Andor. I really do, and I think that's sometimes lost in my grumpiness about the discourse around the show. Every week just blown away by Andor. Every week love it. I cannot believe it's wrapping up. But this dark, somber, introspective series at times begins with this, in a lot of ways, with this droid, and it's hard on its sleeve, and it takes energy to lie, and it's just something special, all the way up to the heartbreaking stuff this week. So I love that character. A big fan of Danny Trejo's Rancor Keeper. I've talked about that a lot. That scene with Boba Fett and the Rancor, I think, is also very powerful Star Wars stuff, and I love what he brought to that, and love the use of him in that role and what he was saying. And then finally, come on, Dewey and Freedy. Big dinners, squigglies, love everything about them. It was so weird in a series that has been not weird at times, right? It's been very grounded, all those kind of things that I do love about Andor, but have these characters show up. I've been celebrating them all week and will for a long time. Final question here. What are we thankful for in 2022 when it comes to the Star Wars saga and this Star Wars thing that we invest so much time in? Jen, you're leading your family into the Star Wars world even more. You're pulling them in. You're going to ride that rise of resistance with your daughters, and I can't wait for that moment. You'll be thankful for that when that happens. But what are you thankful for now?
Oh my goodness. I'm thankful that Star Wars had such a strong framework, the original trilogy, that this whole new era has been built on. And it still resonates with kids and adults and grandparents. It's kind of amazing. And this does not happen often, from the sequel trilogy to Andor. The themes still resonate with me, and they definitely give me hope for humanity. And it reminds me that when people come together, change is possible, because things can get really dark in life and kind of depressing, and I can get kind of down and pessimistic. And honestly, Star Wars brings that back, brings my optimism back, and the Star Wars community around Star Wars helps me get back into a happier place, and a reminder that there are good people out there. There are kind people. There are people that believe in that everyone should be treated fairly and with respect. So, yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I feel that framework point there is just wonderful. This all continues to spring out. And yes, we all have opinions on how it springs out and how it should spring out from the original movies. I get it. And at times it's part of the fun of the discussion. Other times it can get you down. And this year more than any previous year since maybe early 2018 and the post-Last Jedi battles, those wars, I've been down at times and been upset, been downright angry and grumpy about some of the discussions and some of the things going on in Star Wars Twitter or just Star Wars fandom. And at the end of the day, I'm always thankful that can go away, that I could just sit down and open up a package of bag clips and get excited at a bounty hunting, grumpy, evil Wookiee who has a heart of gold. I swear. I love that. And that still exists and that it's still going strong as we get these weird anniversary dates, 10 years from the sale. Wow. We are years away, almost soon enough. Believe it or not, 10 years away from the Force Awakens release. Those numbers are crazy. But it's all been a blur because it's been so fun. It's been so fun. And in 2022, as we're having, the biggest problem with Andor might be just that people love it so much. and that incites passions. And that's a good problem to have. And then the fact that it's still going strong, I'm thankful for that in 2022. But Joseph, you take us home here with what you're thankful for this year and beyond with Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I think definitely some of the things that you're both saying, the community, the moments where the community comes together in such a positive way. We talk about it when the community can have some rancor and some not the rancor, but have some discord, not the actual discord. Anyway, words are hard in Star Wars, so the community is definitely part of it. When I was at the Hollywood Bowl concert for John Williams and the Imperial theme. He played the Imperial theme and it was like a rock concert, the way people were like just rocking out to the Imperial theme. Those moments I'm always thankful for. But I think it is like the big picture ideas. I was thinking about the characters that I was thankful for. And part of what ties a lot of them together is this big Star Wars idea of like, there is a lot to be upset about in the Star Wars galaxy for the characters. Yeah. Just like in our real lives, there are things to be upset about. And what makes a difference for these characters is when they find, the peace, the grace, the wisdom, the strength to find a way to fight back and deal with their problems in a way that doesn't corrode their soul. Mm-hmm. That's what's fascinating to me about Mothma and watching her struggle with like, I'm committed to this fight, but how can I do it without losing my soul? To watch Dooku in the Tales of the Jedi and fail to do that, to see all these problems. But to make these choices that feel right in the moment, but are ultimately only going to make it worse. And then to watch a character like Reva, who has every reason to be angry, to be upset, and course corrects over the course of this show. That's what's powerful to me, is to see all these characters who fight to make a better choice. Also, the astromech drummer in Book of Boba Fett, who just made a great choice by existing.
That he did. Well said. A great way to end that discussion. What are you out there thankful for in Star Wars in 2022 and beyond? Let us know. Let us know. We want to celebrate and be thankful for this crazy, silly, magical, and powerful franchise we all love. Before we get out of here, we talked a lot about Uncle Bob, so I want to make sure we have some time for this. We have This Week in Star Wars History, looking ahead to Star Wars Past. And this week we have 2 years and 2 dates. On November 25th, 1984, and then on November 24th, 1985, ABC, where I think Iger was working at the time, ABC aired 2 essential pieces of Star Wars storytelling. The Ewok Adventure was released on November 25th, 1984, and then the Ewoks Battle for Endor dropped on November 24th, 1985. And last week we looked back and celebrated the Star Wars Holiday Special. So first question, do we think these 2 movies are as infamous as the Holiday Special kind of became after its release? Jen, we are going to start with you. We'll probably end with you. This is your time to shine.
My moment has come. It's funny because I don't think that they are as infamous. They're not as well known to people, especially people who are not, Star Wars fans. They are like, what? The Holiday Special seems to have kind of made its mark. Not so much Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. And I'm not sure why. I think because the Holiday Special is really memeable. It's there are just the wackiest moments imaginable. And you're like, what? This is a Star Wars thing? So I think that's why it's kind of lived on more so than the Ewoks movies.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Holiday Special, it truly, gained this infamy and kind of, the fact that I always talked about how I read a lot about it on a wrestling website. On WrestleCrap.com, whichever year talked about it. It's just kind of, that's where it went to, where the Ewok movies almost seemed like a dream that I wondered, did it really happen? I kind of remember that. I think I remember that. And yes, they did exist. So yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one there. But Joseph, your thoughts up top here.
No, I agree. I think that people I talked to who watched the Ewok movies back in the day, they have just like fond memories of them. I've talked to like 2 people who are like, that was actually my first Star Wars. That was my entry. I loved it. Whereas anybody who remembers watching the Holiday Special for the most part, either like myself, they're extremely, extremely young, or like, that was a fever dream. That wasn't right. There was, what the hell? Like, it's just, they're just not as freakish, so I don't think they're infamous in the same way.
Right.
I agree with that as well. And this is their, they are celebrated in a lot of quarters, and always have been. One of the folks we know around these parts, Madeline Rue, who's author and did some Star Wars storytelling, and from a certain point of view, she loved these films. She loved Sindel. She wanted to write a Sindel story. Like, you'd go to her birthday party and she'd have an Ewok themed party, and it was kind of based on these movies, not Return of the Jedi. It was based on these, and that was part of her entry into Star Wars too. So it's to be celebrated. But what was our reaction to them? And then follow up, when's the last time we revisited them? Or have you? Because I'll start here. It's been a long time for me since I've sat down and watched these films. But Joseph, then and now.
Yeah, my relationship with these films is tortured. When I was a kid, I was desperate for more Star Wars, but the only thing that was coming out was the droids, the Ewok cartoon, and then these Ewok movies, and I liked part of it, but I was like, I want the lightsabers and the bounty hunters. So I don't remember a ton about them. I was very mixed reaction as a kid. We went on this weird ForceCenter journey where I decided and asked you both to spend some of our ForceCenter money on buying the discs of the Ewok movies in the hopes that we would find the right time to watch them and do a big whole episode on them. And then they became available on streaming like a second later. They're in the long list. I have not watched them since I watched them broadcast on live television. Not live, but you know what I mean? Broadcast on television. I've been saving them, and I kind of can't wait to find the right time to watch them. I'm so eager to watch them again.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't know. I have I've seen clips at that birthday party I mentioned. Like, they were playing in the background, so I watched them a little bit. I watched those big Ewok eyes pop up on screen. And I'm staring at right now at the DVD set you got us. I'm staring at it right there. It's right there. Yeah, I could just stream them. So I'm with you. I'm waiting for the time. And my reaction then was similar to yours, especially of 84, 85. The Star Wars love is still pretty strong, but I was excited for more Star Wars. And that Sindel and her family, it was kind of like Luke Skywalker light and his family. Like, it just seemed weird to me. And I didn't connect with him right away. Wilford Brimley's great, but I also watched him in the TV show Our House, so I was confused why he was there in Star Wars as well. It was a weird time. So there was just they're made for maybe a certain age at that time, and I was just emerging from that time period. So my relationship to these films has always been, curious at best, and they're not going to be A+ quality storytelling, but I think there's probably some magic there, and they are to be celebrated as an entry point for some folks. But Jen, when you sat down to watch these in 84 and 85, I imagine you felt maybe a little different than I.
No, I think I was a little scared. I actually don't really remember watching them. I remember the Ewoks cartoon much more vividly. So I actually revisited Caravan of Courage and just for this, because I was like, oh, let me see. I can't remember anything. And I didn't ask my kids to watch it, but my daughter was like, well, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, it's an Ewoks movie. I didn't think she was going to want to watch it. She sat down and she wanted to watch the whole thing. And I was shocked because I was like, oh my gosh, this is worse than I remember it. It was like the beginning is kind of slow. And then the action really starts to pick up. She was into it. And the story actually got kind of good. It's actually, if you have kids, it's kind of a fun movie for the holidays and like bringing people together and like, thankfulness and all that stuff. And nothing scary really happens. There are the Goraks, which show up later on. My 3-year-old was a little nervous about that. It wasn't bad, It's actually a really cute movie. And my daughter was a little confused at first. She's like, is that Luke Skywalker? I said, no, no, it's not. But she loved Sindel. And there is just something about kids being able to watch kids on screen. And it made me think about the Skeleton Crew. And I think that movie is going to have a big impact on a new generation of kids. I really think it's going to be one to look forward to. I'm excited about it. But yeah, it's Caravan of Courage. I don't even remember Battle for Endor. I don't even remember it. I should probably revisit it with my daughter and see if she'll be into that one.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll have a chance. That's my next question. Because over the years, led by what I'm calling Landa's love of the Ewoks, trademark pending, patent pending, we have all found ourselves loving these fierce defenders of freedom in the galaxy. Maybe looking at them different. I think Joseph and I have kind of a similar, not the dub Ewoks. Oh wait, I love them. That's kind of a journey there. So what do we see? What's the value in these film nows? Jen, I think you've explained it well too. But what maybe more importantly, what we'd like to see Lucasfilm find a way to revisit them. They've already released them. I'm not talking about a straight remake, but Ewok culture. There's a story to tell there. What do we think about this, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really wanted to just highlight what Jennifer said about the value of them. I mean, I think the fact that in that era, Lucas was clearly interested in telling kids stories from kids' perspectives. It's just a really reminder of how much that sort of the generational tale, and these are your first steps in a much larger universe, how core that is to Star Wars storytelling. I think that's one of the things that makes them interesting and important, and being a blurg story. But for the new, man, I actually think a new Ewok movie, like the same way they've kind of played with like, Life Day's canon, but let's actually tell some real stories about it. I think in Ewok movie about, especially since it's been established in publishing, that like some Ewoks were like, yeah, no, we'll go out into the galaxy. Some of us will be therapy Ewoks. Pikpa, the one who's gifted at tech, the idea of Ewoks, Ewoks big day in the galaxy. I would love that to come out, that movie on the 40th anniversary of the Ewok movies.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'll never stop talking about, I want the rise of Chirpa. I want the Chirpa family dynasty. I want more Princess Nisa. I want more of that kind of stuff. But I love the point you both have made, that storytelling from the kids' point of view will always be valuable. Always be valuable. That's what we talk about the Star Wars buffet, because Star Wars should reach out in every direction, including the gruff, grounded Andor, all the way to stuff like this. So, Jen, we're going to put you in charge here. What's the reboot going to be?
I actually think doing an Ewok movie would be fantastic, and you do it for streaming. And I thought when I was watching Caravan of Courage with my kid, I was like, these Ewoks don't look so good. Like Wicket is the only one in Caravan of Courage that looks decent. The rest of them look a little scary. My daughter loved it. She bought into it. Kids are not as picky as us older fans. You don't have to have a huge budget for this. Just find a forest, get some people in the Ewoks costumes, and there you go, Bob. We got some pitches for you.
First announcement. We're returning to Endor, the magic of the Ewoks. Oh, that'd be great. Oh.
Yeah. And, actually, the Ewoks cartoon has a lot of the canon from the Ewok culture that they built into the movies. And so, it's already there. It's already there. Maybe adapt one of the episodes of the Ewoks cartoon.
We have Wisties come from these movies, right? And the cartoon?
Yes. The Wisties are in there.
They're in the Battlefront 2 Ewok modes. I love slinging Wisties at stormtroopers.
It's so satisfying.
It really is. Really is. So there you go. These movies bleed to other areas. Final question. We're doing this for our proud Nathan Hamill. What are our thoughts on Teak? Greatest character ever, Jen?
I found him a little scary as a kid.
Correct answer, I think.
I don't know. I'm curious to revisit it because my memories are not fond of Teak.
So he runs fast.
Yes.
Nathan doesn't stop talking about him as he shouldn't with Teak. Joseph, what's you're so good with themes. What's the theme of Teak?
I think Teak combines with the thing that we talk about often on ForceCenter, and that's how much Star Wars needs a straightforward horror film. Just have people get, like Jennifer says, find a forest, put some teens in there trying to have a party, and let Teak at them.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great answer and a great way to end the discussion. Looking back here on the Star Wars Ewok specials that aired in 1984 and 1985. Hard to believe. All right, we're out of here today. Fun episode. Uncle Bob, welcome back. We'll see what that actually means. We'll find out in time. You can find us on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. As I said up top, yes, we are on Hive. Let me we'll spruce up the house on Hive a little bit here, but you can find us there at ForceCenter. That's right. I got there early and I didn't have to use Pod because it's ours now. No longer I think it's a Swedish gym called ForceCenter that was spotting on the other one. I grabbed it. It's mine. It's ours. Power. Do it. We are also on Instagram. Don't forget YouTube. We got a live Q&A this week. Holy bleep. That's this week. We're going 5:00 p.m. Pacific time. On Wednesday here on our ForceCenter YouTube channel. So follow us over there. Subscribe. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're available on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. We're always looking forward to having new patrons jump in there, get into our Discord server where you can hang out with ForceCenter friends. You can find me at Ken Napzok or go to kennapzok.com for all the other things I do, including my sports card ASMR channel on YouTube. Actually, had some ForceCenter people pop over there. December 3rd in Los Angeles at Dynasty Typewriter. I'll be part of 2 shows that night, 7 and 9:30 p.m. It's the Mark Ellis comedy special taping. If you're in town, come out. It's going to be a fun event. Going to be seeing some friends there too. So more information there. I do want to highlight something with a lot of there's always issues in the world, and you can pick one and focus on it, and you can get overwhelmed by everything. But the mass shooting at the club in Colorado is on the minds of a lot of people here. And during those times, I like to highlight there's direct ways you can help, but I always highlight one of my favorite orgs, which is the TrevorProject.org, which is there to provide information, support, especially for suicide prevention for the LGBTQ young people 24/7 all year round. You can support by going to TrevorProject.org. Jen, what do you got?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for now, and now Hive Social at Jennifer Landa, my YouTube channel where I am posting weekly and/or reviews and watch-alongs. That is also at Jennifer Landa. I'm still on TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138. And we'll see what other social media app comes up next.
It's all fun. It's all good. Joseph, you were, I think, the last of the 3 of us into Hive, but you're already doing great work over there where I haven't figured out what I want to do over there. So we're going to follow you.
Just posting the same things I post other places, but on Hive. I think I have one post that's unique to Hive. That's where we're at with social media. Find my unique, exclusive Hive-only posts on Hive. No, it was very stressful. I was too busy having an anniversary weekend with my wife to sign up for Hive, but I'm there now. So find me on Hive. It does look like it's going to be a good solution, maybe, knock on wood. So Hive, I'm at Joseph Scrimshaw. Still going to be on Twitter for a while, Instagram, TikTok. I'm at Joseph Scrimshaw on all of those places. You can also find my YouTube channel by going to YouTube and searching Joseph Scrimshaw. Got some great comedy stuff and short films there and more coming soon. I also want to highlight Vote Forward. This is an organization, as I've talked about, where you can write letters. They are nonpartisan. They're just encouraging people to vote, to use their power. We have the Senate runoff election in Georgia, which is very, very important. And Vote Forward is currently writing letters to voters in Georgia. I'm doing that, and I invite you to join me. Their website is votefwd.org.
Great cause, great idea, and good thing to do. Get out there and vote. All right, that's it. I'm going to go stalk Uncle Bob at the Disney Studios. We'll see y'all next time here at ForceCenter.